Cool. Obviously, I picked the best angle. Shit. Cool, yeah, we're streaming. It's just that this plug is not the greatest. It doesn't charge. I'll find another one, but we are live.
Okay, cool.
It's in India, was it?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Hoff. I'm a partner here at KPMG in our financial services audit division, actually. And just like to extend a huge warm welcome to everybody here tonight. I think it's fantastic to see such a good turnout ahead of the long weekend, and I'm sure a lot of people are on their way out, as you probably judge with traffic. But thank you for coming. I think really excited to hear the panelists here tonight, and just to take this topic within the country a lot more forward. And with me tonight, you probably see all the suits. That's all the guys from KPMG, other than the jeans and t-shirts. And from here tonight from KPMG, we've got guys from our technology advisory management consulting practices. And I think also from our side just shows the commitment that we've got to blockchain and the development within the country. And I think we're seeing cutting across so many different streams. Thank you again, and I'm going to hand over to Paul to lead the discussion. Just one thing, logistics-wise, if you are looking for the toilet, they are just at the end of the corridor here to the right. There is a door at the back of the auditorium as well if you need to access through that. Paul, thank you.
Cool, thank you so much. First a big thank you again to KPMG for hosting us tonight. I'm really excited to be here. So for those who don't know me, my name is Paul Kohlhaas. I'm the managing director and founder of Linum Labs. We do training, advisory, and community building in South Africa, and focus specifically on the enterprise side. So for those who don't know, so we also run the Ethereum meetups in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and it's amazing to see how much this community has grown through you guys over the last year. I remember we started the Johannesburg meetup group in September last year. We're just at about 30-40 members, and we're now around 210. So also big thank you to Andy Tuttle. He's the local host for the Johannesburg meetup, and we look forward to having a lot of similar events like these with you in the future. What's really cool about these events, it's a great way for to bridge the divide between startups and big corporate financial institutions, because we're all kind of trying to achieve the same goal in building innovative blockchain products. Cool, so another maybe little announcement. We're hosting a big hackathon together with the University of Cape Town, which is probably going to be in August this year. And so it's going to be a week-long event with a training bootcamp and then a three-day hackathon. That's open to both students and the general public. And the goal of the hackathon is really to build tangible outputs, so tangible products, applications, and smart contracts. And for any sponsors or partners that want to get involved in this process and actually really help define some of the use case spectrum that a hackathon like that could tackle. Like, we're very, very open to suggestions, specifically because we want to build products that can actually solve problems in the real world using blockchain. And so it also would be a great chance for you to find future talent or to just position yourself in the space. Yeah, so just give me a shout if you want to get involved in that hackathon. Cool, so we're here tonight with our amazing panelists to discuss all things Ethereum, blockchain, specifically in the financial industry, and kind of explore this paradigm shift that has been going on where legacy institutions kind of join forces together and try to figure out these new developments. So we have with us tonight Tanya Knowles, head of Fractal Solutions at Strate. Fractal Solutions is a new division of Strate that is really focusing on innovation and blockchain and positioning itself as a thought leader in the space and also aggregator between different financial institutions. Then we have with us Peter Munnings, a blockchain lead at Consensys, a very, very experienced developer, formerly with R&B Blockchain Initiative, very clued up in a variety of different technical fields. Very excited to have you here, Peter. Then we have with us Andrew Baker, the Chief Information Officer of Barclays Africa. Andy, also a very technical guy, very hands-on, lots of experience in investment banking and trading, and big fan of distributed ledger technology and the R3 consortium that is forming in South Africa as well. And then we have Adrian Hope-Bailie from Ripple. Adrian is a Web Standards Officer, sort of defining, building the future of payment protocols and value protocols using blockchain, and specifically working on the interledger protocol, which is called the TCP/IP for sort of value transmitted on a ledger. Cool, guys. I'll take a seat now, and just maybe start off with the first question that we have for you tonight, which is sort of what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you guys sort of face working together in these new consortiums that are forming?
I always get tricky. So there are probably more opportunities than there are challenges. The most obvious challenge, we started chatting to each other, was it about a year ago? And I don't remember what kicked it off. I think I went over to the UK. I spent some time with R3, obviously through Barclays' relationship with them, and I just started pinging WhatsApps around to people saying, "Are you doing anything here?" And then we got a group that just made everyone admin, and then we pulled in a load of other people. And the thing that sticks out for me a little bit, the challenges space internally. If I want to do something, there's not necessarily politics is the right word, but there's always like kind of like a bit of turbulence if you're going to do something disruptive internally. Now, if you scale that across multiple organisations, you as a bank, your brand is pretty important, right? So you say, I want to do something disruptive, and I'm going to partner with all these other banks we've never really worked with before. That's definitely a challenge. And then the other thing that kind of stands out for me is that then you want to like socialise what you're doing. You want to say, hey guys, this is what we're up to. And I remember getting several phone calls from other banks saying, "I'll take, we can't do that." So I definitely got told off a little bit at the start for bad behaviour, but I've mended my ways. And so I think the challenge is a little bit like being respectful of another brand, but trying to work with them and coordinate something. Understanding they've got a lot to deal with internally to get something across the line, and then marrying that with what we've got to do, that's a massive challenge. The opportunity on the flip side is absolutely enormous. The cost of interbank communication is absolutely enormous. The way that we repond with each other, the way that we phone around each other, all these manual, heavily operational processes, that's your opportunity, and that's absolutely enormous.
So I think from our side, the challenge, one of the challenges is it's a brand new technology. The reality is there is no one in the world with more than 9 years blockchain experience, which is phenomenal if you think about it. I mean, most of us, when we look at challenge experience, Steve Jobs. There's no one, Satoshi Nakamoto maybe is got 2 million years ago. So, or she, or them. So, you've got this brand new technology, which is actually quite complicated. It's not the easiest thing just to spin up a node, blockchain, write some contracts, deploy them, get them working. It's a completely different way of thinking from a developer perspective. So you have transactions that are available everywhere, all the time. So you've got, on the one hand, trying to understand and work with this brand new technology, and then on the other hand, you've got incumbents who run multi-billion-dollar organizations who are, very wary of brand new technology. So you're trying to understand the potential and map the potential out from this kind of very brand new nascent technology to saying this could look like this, and then you've got people who are saying, we already have electricity in place. So it does feel a little bit like this could be a really, really good thing. And I think most of us in this room would be. But at the same time, it's actually kind of hard just to get a very simple, small thing working. And I often relate that to, I clearly remember in my younger days when you would play network games, just setting up the network took 3 or 4 hours. 2 or 3 hours playing, and then you cap on a coax cable would fall off, and it was just too much effort to go, tune it properly, and it feels a little bit like that. We get a network up, and it takes hard work and politically and technically, but we get Strate on board and apps on board and first on board and new comes on board, and we have this, and it is amazing when you see this network running. Reserve Bank and actually see transactions happening. It's incredible to watch and see the aha moments. But then something falls over and so, but we know that those old coax networks, maybe they still exist somewhere, but generally that technology didn't move on. I think this technology didn't move on. But you're right at that stage where it's very new and you're working in very, very established businesses that are heavily regulated.
You actually made me think of that. So you raised a good point. You talked about the 10 years experience. The other part of that equation actually is that most of the guys that have got 2 or 3 years experience, you quite like to work in your environment, not that keen on coming and working in a big bank. So the other challenge for us is actually creating a culture where people who are basically startup in DNA are happy to come and sit in a corporate and not get frustrated to pieces and eventually leave and go, so you see that, right? I mean, I've got Marek here from Prague. It's a big thing to actually. I've sat in so many meetings with 50 heads of blockchains. I said, how many developers you got? Not yet. We're still in thinking stage. So that's a massive challenge. So I think the training component of it. You mentioned that at the start of the course. I think that's for South Africa. Absolutely.
That's what Andrew said. I mean, that's why Strate went with the Fractal, was with the idea of having this sort of different culture, different environment. And our old state business, which was around risk management and operational excellence, and we was trusted independent party, and that's why Fractal was started. But I probably spend 80% of my time managing the politics that is the business, trying to get board funding for the projects we're doing, trying to explain why we don't need to follow, Prince 2 project management, where's my dashboards, where's your business case, where, the governance around the way that the business operates, and to try and justify why you don't do it. People think you're trying to take shortcuts or trying to dodge it. And it's a big challenge. And I think just to add to this idea of working collectively together also, it's difficult when you've been in that environment where there is governance and rules and everything. And then when we all get together and we say, okay, right, true blockchain environment, no one here at this meeting is in charge. And then the meeting, people start saying, okay, is there a chairman? Do we need a treasurer? Should we have a secretariat? And you just start going back down those traditional ways of doing things, and that's what you're trying to break out of half the time. So it's really difficult for us to be pulled in both directions, and the projects that we're trying to get off the ground, for us to change our mindset strategy in a different way, and then try and attract people who don't want to work for a corporate, and say to them, no, I promise, it's really cool. We've got fake grass and we've got a foosball table, like come to us. And yeah, so that's what happens.
Can I ask you a question? So you made me think something there. So we're trying to do something in a very inclusive manner, and it is a bit like herding kittens. Somebody wants this feature, that feature. I was kind of thinking the other day, wouldn't it be easier, the downside of this, of just 2 banks? Just trying to get 2 banks to do the most simplest thing you could think of, and then bringing because we're almost waterfalling the process of Consensys by getting like every possible interested party. And I wonder if a little bit of a deviation would be who would be the fastest? If one bank and another bank just said, look, let's just do something, not upset the industry, but just minimum viable something, not even a product, just something. Yeah, I wonder if that would be a more effective way of doing it.
Right, can I just jump in there? I'd actually from Ripple, in that sense, thinking about what they did in Japan, where they connected 27 banks to run something like that.
It was a similar model. So what they did is they just deployed the technology in the cloud, and the banks decided that there was value in using Ripple's technology domestically, even though the company's focus is on cross-border. The Japanese banks felt that their local rail was outdated, and so they're using Ripple's technology domestically, but with a view to becoming plugged into this international network. So it was, in many respects, that model starts small, with 2 people networking, working together. In this instance, 47 is small, but it's domestic at least. It reduces a huge amount of the complexity, and then build out from there. And that's exactly what's happened. So it started with that group of banks, and very recently now, the largest bank in Japan has signed on to the international Ripple's international network for example.
You need plans in South Africa?
Yes, conversations. No, I think they're about, but yeah. I mean, you should be sure. There's always, the network is only as good as its footprint. The way the Ripple network is being modeled is to start with the world's biggest multinational banks. So we have a global payment steering group of that's now 7 banks, including Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi is something, a big Japanese bank. But start with them, get them into network and working together, and then continue bringing on other banks and grow. But sure, I think is an important channel for especially cross-border remittances. The key is finding a good partner in probably South Africa, maybe South Africa, Nigeria, to open up.
Cool, thanks. Maybe to tie into that a little bit, what role do you guys feel startups have to play sort of in these developments? So we've seen, for example, that Consensys has taken a leading role in aggregating the enterprise space in Ethereum and creating a platform or consortium type of structure where different enterprises can get together. Ripple has done the same thing for interbank settlement for several years, building consortiums of banks. And this is a very new development that startups are kind of taking the leading role. How do you feel about that?
Maybe I'll answer. So, having worked at First Bank, I think we did quite well in terms of building relationships with other banks. And I must say it was fun to be in that environment. Having now moved out of the bank into a startup Consensys, there's just way more access to not just banks, but all sorts of different organizations. And because you're not, it's very hard for me as a first-time employee to actually say, you think this is how you should run your blockchain solution. Immediately, you've got competitors who are trying to use a framework that very and it's just an awkward space to how to work with. Whereas with Consensys, it's just treated as a technology company. So Consensys is a technology provider, has some great skills, it's nice technology, it's much easier, I'm finding, to go and just talk, because I'm not claiming a vested interest of being one of someone that is in the back. So I'm just here to provide technology or a skill. And I think that's why the startups have been reasonably successful in building these sorts of. And the reality is it's a technology that only works because of network effect. As I always says, you can't spin the blockchain. That's the drive you have in order for it to be worth something. And that's hard to do from a single bank, so especially in the finance place. I think Strate is probably been reasonably successful because they naturally play that intermediary role. And so it's probably easier for them to pull groups of banks together because they do that for other things as well. Banks are in a similar way, they're really owned by different banks. But I think someone like a startup like Consensys, you just have access to all sorts of different institutions that you wouldn't necessarily have if you were inside a bank.
It's that famous role of neutrality.
Yeah, you don't carry that. The question of why are you saying we should do this as my competitor? Because you know.
That's a very good answer. So it's massively important. It's answer 7. Thanks. It's massively important for the role startups play, and they solve a lot of the problems. So if a startup comes to me, if Ripple comes to me, or Consensys comes to me and say, we work like this, do you want to do something? Then I might say, well, add this, that, and the other, and I will. If a bank, that same conversation with a bank can take years. So hugely pivotal role. The way that I get around some of it now is I have to behave like a startup, and that's very, very tricky. And so I have to restructure myself, not in a classic CIO restructure, brutal restructure. We actually have 2 types of work in our area. So we send our guys into startups. We send them into consortiums who co-locate with other banks in a neutral space. There's actually so they go and sit there, and it's not even clear sometimes that they're an absent staff and that people are in that room, maybe from a petrochemical company or from another bank. But that scaled learning is absolutely key to come back and have any kind of meaningful dialogue. The interesting bit that I haven't got to yet is when you create a digital asset at the end of that process, you spill it out. Right? So to actually share that IP, I have some ideas around kind of what we're going to do in terms of our structure to make that sharing a neutral experience for the receivers. So I think fundamentally it fits better into a startup model. If you want to contribute in that space, you can't do it in a standard way. You actually have to sit off stream, no BRBs, none of that. What was that print stuff? So yeah, you have to behave in a completely non-standard bank way, and you have fully mandated, fully empowered people to work in a startup.
There's a slightly different take on the question as well, which is if we compare the big consulting plays around like these maybe with POs and so on, that's a startup running on a development as opposed to what's happening in South Africa with the banks that come together on the technology themselves. And the reason they put the technology to the themselves is because there was a development and for a lot of those others there is and so it was kind of the other way around, that you ended up, instead of having a technology vendor going out and building a network, you just had technology with a huge community behind it that resulted in people wanted it picking that technology, which I think is important as well, because that's perhaps a group that wouldn't necessarily missed a little is that after the fencing settlement that we're doing, we were a little bit curtailed in what we could do around our distributed ledger and XRP and stuff. So we still have a very strong commercial offering across the payments, but in terms of stimulating a community around our open source software and so on, we couldn't really put much focus on the success of it.
You mentioned something extremely important there, which is the communities that, I mean, there is R3 meetups actually now happening, and there's Hyperledger is starting to build, to do its own meetups. So I think the potential, like, these consortiums quickly realize the potential that a community forming around a product has. And that's, I think, like you mentioned, one of the reasons why a lot of incumbents chose to go with Ethereum, because it has a strong developer community. You can reach out, you get online support within a matter of hours. You can find the guys that are actually building a product and get on them with Twitter channels or Slack channels and discuss your approach.
It's not always the best technology. There's a guy out there that he still thinks he has a better idea. And we just spent so long trying to make it perfect that
That's really a very valid point as well. The other thing that people aren't interested in is captivity in the new world. So one of your challenges, if you don't open source, I think there's a huge uphill struggle to get people away from the feeling that this is another closed loop network that's out of my control. So I think even if you're in the startup world, your challenge is how do I commercialize something through it. So there has to, in the old days, you just create a closed loop product and say, eat this, and then you say, okay, fine, I'll take it. There is already something there, right? It may not be awesome. So if you want to come and disrupt it, you have to look and feel very, very different from the banks. They have a level of autonomy that they didn't have.
Maybe a question on regulation. So how do you feel that regulation actually influences innovation these days? And then, do you think the trend...
Oh, sorry. Did you guys say?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think the trend is rather to make the blockchain systems that we're building compliant with current regulation, or actually to make the regulation compliant with blockchain?
I think it'll be a good thing. I think it has to be. But then you can't truly realize some of the potential that people see in blockchain if you try and fit it into the current regulatory boxes. It's just not good. If you look at the internet today, especially if you're talking about global blockchain, so you've got this distributed ledger that crosses borders. Regulations are, by definition, something that's going to come to borders. So how do you regulate this international entity? And the internet has this problem today. It's very difficult to come up with ways to do that. So I think regulations will have to adopt to recognize international entities and how those plans work in this space. But at the same time, I think blockchain has a bit of a governance paradox that if you're a regulator, you're a government who wants to protect your citizens, that's what you want to do, you create regulations with that in mind, which that's the intention. And if you have this global system that you don't understand how to control it and how it works, how do you build regulations that relate to that to protect your citizens, especially if you end up in situations where governance of that system comes down to a bunch of guys who write the code. Ultimately, the people who make the rules are the guys who write the code, and you don't know who they are or where they sit, or when suddenly the decision to hard fork Bitcoin, go ultimate versus SegWit is going to happen. As a government, there's no way I'm going to put bet on one or the other or not. So I think there's going to be a lot of movements in this space.
I would say that I feel sorry for regulators because I think everybody's looking at them to provide some legislation around something that doesn't exist yet and nobody knows what the answer is and how it's going to look. And at fintechs and startups knocking your door down, saying, please can you enable some regulation to allow us to do the following business? And you've got the incumbents knocking your door down to say, you know what, don't listen to them, you're going to bring risk into the market and your citizens aren't going to be protected or whatever, and please change the rules to suit that our businesses are still protected. So I feel sorry for them. The one thing though that is promising is that the regulators, for the first time in my experience, what we've seen is that they're looking at this very seriously around the world. And they are having conversations, and they seem to be moving a lot faster than they have on a number of previous issues, even here in South Africa and overseas. So there's a lot of focus on it, where they are incubating ideas, providing sandboxes, and all sorts of things for it.
So I look at regulation in positive, right? So in general, right? So for me, it's a safety net. So if I'm going to climb up these stairs, I'm quite happy. So in the innovation cycle, where there's nothing really going on here, there's nothing to protect actually at this point in time. If blockchain as a concept gets hacked and some quantum computer takes it out, the impact on the world is about 14 or 15 seconds worth of visa transactions. Right, so we're all sleeping just fine, really, actually, even me, even though I've got some BTC, but I was so my point is that we don't really have something that needs regulating at this point in time. We have some ideas, some concepts, and some stuff in flight. And what I quite like about the regulators in South Africa is they're saying, well, we're learning. So our role is to observe. And when we need to protect our citizens, we'll step in and we'll add those governance frameworks around it. That's quite progressive. To say that actually we don't really think there's something to worry about at this point in time. And what you want to avoid is your kind of flash crash, where trading moves from people doing it and typing stuff in, to computers doing it, and the regulators were still making sure that all the traders had all the right certifications to trade on the exchange, but they just picked it up. Or the action was somewhere else. And the guys doing that, there was no. So what you don't want is your $8.2 trillion movement in the stock market, and then say, yeah, we should probably regulate that. And I think this has got blockchain has enough visibility for that not.
I would add there's a balance to be had as well, because I think for some startups, and this is, blockchain is such a broad topic, so people there, if you're trying to build something for identity, it's very different to if you don't do that, do cross-border payments, for example. So there's a fair number of companies out there trying to facilitate, for example, cross-border payments with cryptocurrencies as a layer. And they sit in this regulatory grey area, which I think is some will take advantage of, but some will feel, I can't go out and get investment, I can't make decisions about my future because tomorrow the regulator can literally just turn on my decision. And so you need open-mindedness, and you need regulators to be thinking about how material is this thing, which is exactly what you're saying. But at the same time, when the industry puts their hand up and says, tell us what we are. Are we FX traders? Are we commodity traders? What are we? Give us something to work with them. That regulator needs to be ready to at least do something temporary. To say, okay, here's some guidance, because just complete silence isn't really good. So it's a balance.
This is a point. I read through the SEC ruling on the Winklevoss ETF. So those who don't know, the Winklevoss brothers, the two guys who started Facebook, and then somebody got started out here. They've been pushing to have a Bitcoin ETF, and they're trying to go to regulation. And it was very interesting reading the SEC's ruling with the regulators in this space, because it actually made a lot of sense. They weren't worried about the crypto nature of it, or the fact that Chinese miners process transactions. They were just looking at things like saying, you only have whatever it is, 0.00% of liquidity on the market, and can be moved by someone else. And so there were lots of actually really good reasons why they didn't want to register it. easy system around common sense stuff around banks. So I was actually quite interested to see it. And I'm also working with, for example, some of the regulators in South Africa. They do bring a common sense, they have a do no harm policy, but sometimes it's just, guys, what you're doing, you don't really care about the technology, but just really what you're trying to do. And a lot of the cross-border stuff, why would you want to buy Bitcoin solution without dollars? Everyone's buy Bitcoin solution without dollars. It's much easier and it's cheaper. So there's lots of things where I think you crypto evangelist who just want everything to be crypto. And it doesn't really make sense in the time. And I think the regulators, a lot of stuff is actually regulated. The fact that you have Bitcoin, that doesn't necessarily mean it's outside of the US. For example, so for me, I pay Bitcoin now. I still have to pay a tax on that. Because the tax law says that it's in currency or time. Whatever value you earn, you must pay tax on. How I pay tax is Bitcoin is totally out. But the fact is, the regulation actually covers my scenario in that particular case. Now you can say, well, tax man never found out, you want to lower market prices. That's just unethical and illegal. So I just have to figure out a way of how do I adhere to the regulation that already exists. I think that's a lot more the place. Companies like Linum, I think are really good because they're self-regulating. So although we don't have to do KYC and different things, we are going to do it because it makes sense. Right now, and it puts us in a good space and gives us access to those things.
Yeah, a good example. Should they be charging back when they sell it? Those are the kind of things that today it's not material enough for SaaS to get, but it would be really useful for them in modeling and deciding how the business was work to know, am I selling something that I'm going to have to charge back on, or is this actually just going to be the fixed license? Because they could do one or the other, but they need to keep that.
Well, if you monitor it, it's out of regulation. It's a commercial choice.
They're selling the product, right?
I think it's like
Cool, guys. Thank you so much. So we maybe at this point open it up to any questions from the audience. I think we have a mic to go around.
Thanks so much. That was awesome, guys. I wonder, there's been like a bit of discussion up here recently about what the best approach for consortiums and enterprise use cases is in terms of building products that could see production. So with R3 and Barclays, the sort of flagship of the Corda protocol is syndicated loans. And certainly like Farzam's opinion on that is build the tokens first, right? The simple settlement layer, and try and do something like the Bank of England was talking about today with real-time gross settlements. And once you can do tokens, then you can do all of these other more fancy things, which are really just tokens with little, pay back in 6 months, or here's the interest rate, whatever the tokens with, little bits added onto them. So I wonder, like, what do you see, particularly you, Andy, what do you see as the value of that syndicated loans flagship? And do you not think that it's perhaps better to build from the ground up?
I never only have one answer, so that's very cool. So the value of something is when it's live, right? So when it means something that has value to its consumers. So what's the shortest route to live? Probably not. So to my general view on stuff when I pay, and syndicated loans is pay. It's not a scale business. It's really no one can syndicate loans. So it's a fractional concern. So when I look at it, I'm saying, well, do I want to have a long, protracted conversation with the regulators about limiting on this? And I think it might be allowing it or not. I actually don't care. Fundamentally, I'll go for an MVP which solves an interbank problem, and typically, even if I can mint on that, I won't. I'll rather existing settlement rails with all their recons. I've got RESTful APIs I can call. Like from a technology perspective, I can code with that, and it's a zero risk problem for me. So I would split the two out personally. I'd split the settlement piece out and keep it exactly where it is today, and just remove the manual component of it. And then I'm not massively onto this minting on a distributed ledger or blockchain at this point in time. I don't think it's secure enough. I have a number of fundamental issues with that. So, but I'm not against it either for something small. So there you go. It's not really that concrete. For all the stuff that we're planning to do this year, we are not reliant on having to meet on a DL or a blockchain. So I want to unlock the back. There was something else about, I think the question, is that all of your question or just a bit?
Well, I mean, you have answered it. I'm interested. I'm interested that your approach is so different from someone like Fazam, right, who's fully in for national cryptocurrency. Let's put the ZAR onto.
You can sell it to everybody who wants. I'm going to do it.
But it's the same point that in some aspects relates to the point I made earlier, where we can spend the next 10 years all working together to come up with the perfect cryptocurrency or DLT-based settlement system, and then we'll get onto smart contracts and that stuff. Or we can solve the use case here, right? So there's a problem we want to solve, and if you look at most of the consortiums or startups in this space, that's basically what they ended up doing. They've flown headlong into the technology and very quickly focused on it. Ripple's done the same. Ripple started out as a bunch of guys, ex-Bitcoiners, cryptocurrency people, very smart crypto people, who built some open source technology that they considered an improvement on it. That was what it started out as. And then they got this whole other idea, Fuga, maybe OpenCoin, became Ripple. But within 2 years, it went from that to we self-trust Bitcoin. That's the problem. And now, syndicated loans, that's what So I think if you're not solving the use case, you're just building, a hammer so that everyone can hit every nail with this hammer eventually. You'll just never finish that.
I'm going to backpedal from that comment, actually. Conceptually, I actually have a lot, I relate a lot to what Fazam says, and some of his thinking is really actually quite far. I guess I'm a little bit more really put this down to agree on myself. So maybe this is more a trade down on my aspirations. Maybe he's right, but my experience, I want to get out the door on board of prototyping. I'm bored of saying we've fired up something in the cloud and switched it off.
Tim, I'd love to have Fazam here to defend his
It's actually being live streamed, and he's been talking to me about how cut the quality is. So I think he's turned off by now.
Okay, any other questions? Yes, Evelyn.
As an auditor sitting on the auditor, I've raised a lot of concern in the last 18 months that this really disrupts our position as it were, right? Because trust between third parties is very takes place with the role for auditor. And in that period, I've seen two things that I think there is a role for auditor. I've seen a couple of ICOs, and one that happened about 2 weeks ago for next school. So there's a argument in the community at the moment. It seems to have disappeared. I mean, that's right up there in the ballpark in terms of getting customers of some of these things. So, my view personally is I think that the role of auditor will change quite substantially going forward. I think there's still a need for it. And one of my colleagues out there in this practice actually said to me that when the Ethereum fork happened, since they had a chance to have a few discussions with the talent at the time, he said, if you do it differently, what would you do differently? He said, I'd like some governance, but I wouldn't like 50,000 groups to jump through. Just someone who can give you a little bit of confidence, a little bit of trust. So I'm just very interested in getting you guys' thoughts around that specifically, because the thing is quite a few auditors sitting around there, and if you walk into a trading environment and see bonds available to blockchain, you can look
Never mind.
So who audited the code that runs the block?
Good question. We have code auditors.
That's exactly.
They're not human beings.
That was it's actually, I'm paraphrasing, right? With this, I'm afraid, but the governance paradox of blockchain comes from a presentation from Amsterdam Institute. And basically, it's a very long presentation, really worth watching, but what the guy does, and what his name is, he demonstrates how what blockchain has done is move governance around. It hasn't given us a system that's by governance. It's just that now, we try to create a system so we didn't need governance and we ended up just moving the governance to the guys who build the code and we watch that. So governance of Bitcoin is the miners. So one of the different customers that is probably cheaper than the whole cost of mining in Bitcoin blockchain. Maybe there's still a job for cheaper. But there's always going to need to be some human element or independent element that comes into any of these systems. The blockchain changes the dynamics of where you need it and how you apply it, and probably will make it more efficient to do auditing of the system. But it will still be required. You still need somebody to come in and make sure that the system works as demonstrated. So, in Bitcoin, we have miners. Ripple, we have validators. They're going to be mining and it's a few different consensus algorithm. But ultimately, when I set up the Ripple node, I pick which validators I trust. Now, today, I go out and I say, hey, Ripple, which validators should I trust? And Ripple says, well, you've got Microsoft, you've got these guys, I want to pick those. But in the future, I want to go to an independent auditor and say, have you gone and done certification of validators, which ones are certified and are running the right code, and are running their own tweak version of the code that gives preference to certain transactions or whatever. So it may come, and it may be that system is also automated, and you have to audit the guys. There's always going to be someone to watch the watchers. That's ultimately what the function will become.
So your validators, I don't trust your code. So I want it modified.
It's open source.
Yeah, I know. But so my point is that on a validator, that's a great point. How do you've got Sonar Cube, you've got rules where you can spot the code. So there's great ways of automating that. My comment to your original point, I would say, I don't know what you do today. So I know what it costs. So I would give yourself on this course in Cape Town. Because I don't know. I think as human beings we find, and I don't mean to be harsh about it, because it's going to not sound great. As human beings we find a reason to like perpetuate the model. I don't know that. I don't know that it's real. I always think we overestimate the impact in some areas and then massively underestimate in other areas. And I'm not sure that the auditors, I think there's less things to audit for sure, right? I think for people who do recons, right, there's less things to recon, right? So I don't think it's going to disappear. I'm just not sure I'd tell my kid to focus on auditing.
Do we have any other questions? Yeah.
So I just want to tie on to a bit of this conversation. A lot of people when they talk blockchain use the term trust, but it's never fully explained. So in the security or information security world, trust is a very specific thing we technically can actually explain. In the legal world, trust means something completely different. And the term trust, so a lot of people come to me and say, Adela, we want to use a blockchain solution because this will establish trust. And I said to him, it's interesting, what trust are you looking for? And how do I define it in a legal context? But the actual question I want to pose, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole there, is the smart contract hype that I'm experiencing at the moment. Now, let's say myself and another day, we do a smart contract, whatever, how do we know to essentially that we trust that smart contract code to fulfill the agreements that both, and now we're in a legal dispute. How are we going to go through that process? I know we don't have the answers, but how are we going to play through that, and just who's written the code? Do I really trust that Barclays code already?
Yes.
The Absa Towers, Do you really follow my stipulations? And then everything I have, it's just, I'm wondering how you guys see that playing out. So it's just,
There's two bits to it. There's framework trust. So that's the term is called Byzantine fault tolerance, which talks about there's a great there's a thing about Byzantine generals surrounding about the time. You read that? So you have 3F plus 1. So if F is the number of failed nodes, how many nodes do you need to be trustworthy? So it basically allows people to act badly up to a certain point, and then if there's enough bad people, bad things happen. That's built into a blockchain. So you have that Byzantine fault tolerance. It doesn't mean hardware failure. It means people lying, changing the order of the transactions. And so you can have a few of them being naughty, enough of them being naughty, you've got a problem. That's one thing. Then you have contract trust. So there was a great one, hilarious, comical, and relatively expensive if you were there at the time. So I think the problem with IHAB, and we've talked about this on the training a little bit, I don't buy the way that Ethereum is set up right now with a Turing complete engine running both the transfer of economic wealth and business rules. So it would be like bringing BankServe into me, allowing me to do what I wanted to and then execute and complete that transaction. So I don't like that. This is probably one of the only places where I'll be traditional. I would split the business rules out in a Java virtual machine that can do what the heck it wants. You can upgrade the JVM, but the movement of money can't sit in that place. It has to sit in a separate fulfillment contract in a sandbox. So if you have a contract for me and you and it's worth $100, the worst case scenario is the wrong person gets paid $100. In the data case, I got paid $1 million, even though the contract was worth $100. So I think that's a much bigger topic. The framework I'm okay with. The way that you code Ethereum contracts, for me, it should be split. And you should never be able to execute with recursion more than the value of the contract. So I don't trust it, is the short answer. The actual, you can't write. I spent a long time on high-frequency trading. I can mess with them all of it. And that's very simple. There's only 3 scalars in that. You give me a Turing complete engine and your contract in a few days, I'm going to give you a headache.
It's a very lucrative business actually to give the public blockchain a headache. Any other ones from you? Any more questions? Yeah.
Firstly, I'd like to get you on where they see and just a maybe the explanation of how ICO works is very short. What an ICO is.
So I thought first of all, I think Bitcoin for me is overvalued, Ethereum is undervalued, so just in terms of the price discussion. An ICO is an initial coin offering, so it serves as the same function as an IPO essentially. The term is increasingly frowned upon because exactly using that exact terminology might put you into the crossfire of the SEC. So they're more commonly referred to as token launches these days. And what a token launch is, you're basically launching a cryptographic token on top of the public Ethereum chain. And that token would normally represent a piece of ownership or participation or act as a license in an application that is being built by a company on Ethereum. So it's essentially a way for companies to sell direct cryptographic shares in their business. And through doing so, companies have been able to raise anything from $3 to $8 million within 1 to 30 minutes. So these ICOs at the moment, there's a lot of hype about it. There's a lot of regulatory uncertainty in terms of how this is going to play out in the long You just mentioned there, Matchbook, for example, there was a case where sort of some uncertainty came up in hindsight about who actually manages the funds now. So there's no, in a lot of these cases, there's no vesting, for example, until when people can start using these funds, what they're using them for. They get the whole investment amount at once, basically, because it's just a crowd fund from, say, 2, 3 to 1,000 individuals that are involved in buying these tokens. So it's a very, very interesting development. I think today around $200 million have been raised by startups on top of Ethereum. So yeah, very, very interesting how that plays out in the moment.
That's slightly different. You are at the currency pricing game. So you're using Bitcoin versus Ethereum. I'll compare both of them to Rand, and I'd say that they're going to go up.
Just on that, Bitcoin is a deflationary currency. There's more Bitcoins being lost every day than being produced. Certainly there will be in the future. And so, and that's not necessarily good. Inflationary prices are necessarily bad, but the reality is the value of Bitcoin definitely will be in the future. Just around to us.
He's talking about this is paying
It's very interesting.
Just around the point of view, I think for me, whether you're investing in shares, equities, or bonds, or cash, whatever, you've got to look at who's behind it. And that's a little bit different in terms of points, but for me, I'm very keen to see who's behind it and what kind of history they have got and how reliable are they. So, for example, we met with Zuko Rupert, some of his team a couple of times. And just, they're obviously very clever people, but they also pick up why they do it, what are they able to achieve, and what's the strategy for the future, and how they're going to fit those kind of things. And so I'll have, for example, local focus on the feedback, something like the mirror, so I understand how the research is. So I think you can't just say, well, this point of thing happened, is it going to be worth something? I don't know what's behind it, what's the support. There's a Zcash, unlimited Zcash. So someone basically took the Zcash code, open source, and said, we'll make our own currency, which looks exactly the same. They don't know developers, they don't understand Zcash swaps, they can't prove the technology. So it's not trading with Zcash cash. Oh yeah, that's it. So it's not, for me it's worth nothing, and that is trading.
It's also worth mentioning I feel it's not necessarily just there are people who want blockchains where the blockchain is, that's the liquid as well. So you have a blockchain that's mined, like Bitcoin, where the coins have been created over time, or they will be created and then distributed. Whether it's maybe you're just trying to give people a stake in the blockchain because you hope that they're interested in the blockchain itself will ultimately support. It's like giving away shares to a company. But absolutely agree that if you're going to go out and dive into the next coin offering, I'm sure it's not going to die.
I think the same rules of due diligence apply. So in this space, as they normally do in venture capitalism, like you mentioned,
Stupid people lose lots of money
I wanted to just add that there's a really good example on ICOs and things to be cautious about. I think it came out about February, and we found that there's about 20 points on why we need to be careful about it. And a lot of it is saying that startups who have nothing to lose, so they raise 100% of their funding up front. It's probably the third or fourth failed business, and if this one fails, it doesn't matter. And people are supporting them into these things without doing the proper research and seeing is there any substance behind what this is offering. So it's really
There's a lot of speculation, and if you've been in the crypto space for a while, there's a term called pump and dump. So like a lot of these coins are pumped professionally by groups of traders who make their income by doing this. And so that's definitely something to keep in mind. So if you're looking for investments in the space, definitely consider them as investments, because a lot of people just throw money at it to flip it, and then essentially the value of the coin depreciates tremendously over years. It's quite difficult actually in the long run to pick something.
You don't buy us. You're going to buy cryptocurrencies, buy low and sell them.
That's advice. Yeah. Hold on to your investment.
The two questions. One is, what is the value of actually owning Ripple if it's not really mine, and I believe Ripple controls the amount of it? And how will Ether mining change if they move to a proof of stake instead of proof of work? So I started, so let's actually use Ripple's currency. The value of holding it is very, it's effectively an investment. Whereas it forms a part of its overall strategy and what we're going to use it for and how we do that aspect of that. So the strategy for Ripple is to use exactly what the bridge currency. Because of the way Ripple's ledger works, it's optimized for payments. It's not going to be useful for smart contracts. It's a payments ledger. It does 1,000 plus transactions. And Ripple, can you change the amount of Ripple? No, so they were what they call pre-mined. So there's a set amount, it can't go up, it can't go down. But a large portion of them, I think about 60% are held by Ripple. And that's what's funded the company for the first few years. Until Ripple raised its first seed funding and Series A and Series B. It funded itself through selling and continues to do so. So, we're getting to a point now where increasingly it's bookings of our technology and getting our technology into banks and so on. That is the revenue generated. But initially it was a sale of something. So it was exactly that model where you're a company that has technology, you want to get it down, so you effectively sell shares in the technology by issuing a coin and selling it. That's the thing. So the value of it today is basically the way people perceive future value of it. And we had some big announcements in the last few weeks, some really good improvements to the ledger, and the result was the currency impact was 1.5%. So that's pretty crazy, and actually when we because volatility is not good, but that's the value of it is because
so mine, so the reason that proof of stake has taken so long to happen is not because it technically can't be done, it's because of the economics around it. So if you look at the progression of the proof of stake, there's lots of little things around incentives and disincentives. And so fundamentally, if you say, if I'm going to mine Ether and I spend $1 million on mining equipment, I'm going to generate X number of blocks, and therefore that will give me so much Ether. The idea is just to say, well, put that $1 million, don't buy mining equipment, just put it in as a stake, and then you will get the rights to generate blocks based on the stake. So essentially, it should be the same as mining, but there's all sorts of issues around it. So it's been fine-tuning and tweaking all of those little economic incentives and disincentives, and to say how do you keep those bad actors from getting control of the network. And there's not full agreement in the Ethereum community as to exactly how it's going to work. So there's still lots of work, lots of testing, lots of because you're trying to anticipate what will happen in this election. Without knowing what will happen. So you can test technically how it's going to work, but you don't know. I think the DAO is getting a lot of within the current community. Just the sense that we've got to make sure that the city that we look at from every angle for waters. So there's some waters going on.
One last question. Yeah?
Since the acquisition and that we are enriching community, we've led them to become great platforms. So, I'm sure if we representing the user of blockchain and Strate, all Bitcoin protocols hindering blockchain data and balance. So if you go back to, we always think of TCP here as something that doesn't change much. But if you go back and look back in history, there were lots of different networking protocols. So packet switching was developed as a concept in the 60s. It was implemented gradually in smaller networks. So if you look at, there's a picture going around on social media of the internet in 1975. There were about 12 nodes in there. And that's how it worked. But there were lots of competing technologies and there was lots of companies involved in trying to develop it. So I worked for a training company in the 90s and we taught networking with the stand called OSI. Because it was such a beautiful stand to teach them. It was nicely structured and layered. It was the best networking protocol that there was. No one had actually knew that. No one in the world runs OSI, even though it probably is the best structured. Still to this day, if you go to a networking course, they will teach you OSI protocol because it's such a beautiful structured protocol. TCP/IP won out, not because it was the best, but because it was just the most widely used. And I think in the crypto world, we don't even really understand what we want to do. So there's transfer value being mentioned, there's not contracts being mentioned. There's store value is being mentioned. So a lot of people use Bitcoin as a store value. They don't care that it takes 3.5 hours or 6 hours or 12 hours to get transaction into blockchain because they don't keep it for the data. So there's lots of different focuses on what exactly is this Internet of Money. I don't think it's anywhere near being finance. I think there's some protocols and technologies that are slowly becoming a little bit more pervasive. There's a lot of work that the core teams are doing that I think will ultimately make it to whatever the mainstream blockchain is going to look like. The work that Zcash is doing, I think is going to spill over into a number of different technologies. But each you guys are saying if we standardize on certain protocols, we can make a whole lot of stuff work together. Traditional so Ethereum, so there's lots of work happening, but it's like we're in the 70s. And the reality is, although packet switching was developed in the 60s, the big internet companies that we know about, and Facebook only listed in 2010. I think it was 2010. I mean, that's the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 20s, 4 decades of work to establish a protocol that then allowed us to have this great product we share pictures of our cats. So the point is, probably we're going to see some amazing companies develop in 2 years' time based on some of these protocols that we're developing right now. But it's still exciting to be part of it. And the reality is also, I think the difference is with networking, you could get to send, and that was great, that was fun. And you could put stuff on the public website. if you go and type HTTP 192.168, whatever, you'll get to see, some stuff that I've implemented. See it like all over. So now it's a little bit different because now we can actually transfer value. And I can send my sister in the Meetup and that's real value. She can transfer it to clients quite easily. And so there's a little bit of a difference there. But I think fundamentally we've got a long way to go before we start to get to the point where we say, hey, the protocol for doing whatever it is that we're going to be doing in this game space, how it's going to look, slowly we can find it. And I think we've got a long way to go.
I think it's fine. I think we also see it as that protocol hardens, we see a lot more conversions. So there will be no value in taking some open source code and firing it out and saying this got classic. So I really do think that in any kind of innovational cycle, you have like large amounts of money flowing around and not a lot of constraints, and people are encouraged to diverge, just to come up with the menu that we can choose from. And we're in that process right now. No one's trying to be that smart or that clever. They're just finding things that are interesting and valuable. And sometimes some of the stuff I've seen, I'm like, I don't know why I like that. I don't even know what the value of it. It's just really, really cool. And people are putting like money into stuff that really is as completely unobvious value. And that will go on for a while. And then people will start to harden on value, on protocol, and you'll start to see a huge number of you'll see some of the features of order here in Fabric, and if they, and then I think we can talk about that outside. The big winner will be the biggest community, like that. Exactly what would happen with TCP. You sit in some closed loop gentleman's club with, that's restricted and not inclusive, you can get strong. You might be really clever, they're just stealing to go.
Cool. Guys, it's been amazing having you here tonight, and an absolute privilege to pick your brain on these different topics. If you have any further questions, I'm sure the guys will be ready to talk to you outside. We have KPMG has kindly sponsored catering and drinks for us for the evening. So looking forward to some conversations. A big round of applause for our panelists for tonight.